So today I am working with Grindal worms. I want to show how to set up a culture and then share as much information as I can about them because they're kind of amazing. They were what caused me to want to start doing only live food. I just think that for betta fish, it's really beneficial. So when you start off, you're probably going to start with a culture that's smaller than this one. You only need a couple of worms. As you can see here, with my amazing camera skills, which is sad. I was actually a photographer and cameraman for a newspaper for like 2 years, and I can't even get worms into focus. I should be beaten and feathered and tarred. Anyways, this is what they look like. They kind of look like deflated ramen noodles. Um, they can be kind of gross to look at first. Some people say they stink. I honestly don't think that they do. They have an earthy smell, but I don't think that they stink. Like they're not like musky or anything like that. Um, Typically, you don't need this many, but I think it's good to start a culture with as many as you can, just because it can be a little bit complicated at first. So I'm starting with a clear container. You don't need one this size. You can do these cultures as big or as small as you want. I'm just doing another one for the sake of the video. I've been soaking some coconut fiber in some tank water. You don't want to use chlorinated water or anything from your tap. I put way too much water, so I'm having to wring out my cocoa fiber. You can use potting soil or peat moss or any kind of soil-based substrate, any earthy stuff like that. Just try to stay away from anything that has fertilizer in it. You don't want it to burn your worms. And you don't need to put it as deep as I did. You want it kind of damp, but not wet. You want to be able to pick it up and squeeze really hard and just get a couple of drops out. That's the best humidity I found to keep it at because you just want the worms to be as healthy as possible. So I'm going to take a lid right here and do not do something stupid like heat a knife and then poke holes in it because that's really reckless. Um, Lead by example that. But I mean, not everybody has a soldering iron. So I take a bit of tank water, and I usually use a Q-tip, and I try to mix it this way just so you can let them start to eat and pre-soak the food. This is just the way I do it. You don't have to do it this way, but I find the best way to move them around is with Q-tips. Um, you always want to make sure to have gloves on when you're dealing with anything in your tank. Please keep in mind that fish tuberculosis is a thing, and it can be deadly. Um, and when we're dealing with any kind of tank water um, or live foods, we are dealing with some level of feces, and you just got to be safe. So what I'm feeding the worms right now is a little bit of bug bites, no, not bug bites, omega-1 beta pellets. You can really use any kind of fish food. Some people use dog food to feed them. I'm not comfortable feeding them dog food, and I'll tell you why. Um, and boom, we just started a culture. There we go. But I'm not comfortable feeding them dog food because whatever you feed them is what's also going to be passed on to your fish. And a lot of dog foods contain a lot of raw meats that can grow a lot of bacteria that can really be harmful to some fish, especially fry that are still developing their fins. You can have large bacterial booms, and it can cause a lot of negative effects. That and it can be oily, and you don't want that in your tank. But you can do it if you want to. Just be careful because if it's too big of a piece, you can start getting mold because they won't be able to eat it fast enough. That's why I just feed them twice a day in small increments, and I try to stick with fish food or typically high quality dog food if I'm gonna be doing dog food. But it's really not that important. They're kind of gross and they'll eat anything. So here I just wanted to show how I feed them. You should soak your food, but the humidity in here is so crazy high that I don't really worry about it. But you should soak the food before feeding it to them. It's just easier for them to eat. Um, so yeah, I feed them twice a day, and they typically are all over it within a couple of hours. So another thing I want to mention is the temperature. It's best to keep them between 74 and 80 degrees. If they get below 72, their reproduction is going to slow down, and you can start having die-offs. If you get over 82 degrees, I mean, it's the same thing. They will stop producing as fast, and uh, they'll start dying off. Last thing I want to say is nutrition. Nutrition is very important when it comes to feeding your fish, and most fish food that we have are 4 to 5 times more nutritionally packed. I'm making up words here. Than live food. So I'm trying to stay away from that because stuff like pellets and dried bloodworms and stuff like that and flake foods, they are healthy for the fish, but if you're overfeeding, it can not only cause severe bloating in betta fish, but it can also cause fatty liver disease, digestive issues, and swim bladder issues, which there really isn't a cure for, and there's not really much you can do for treatment. So you just don't want obese fish. But here you go. This was my little guide to Grindal worms. They're amazing food. They can last for months. Every now and then you're going to want to restart the culture. I typically do it every 3 to 4 months. Um, there you go. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. This has been a very long video about worms.